US President Donald Trump has reacted to Russian strike on Sumy. Trump's special envoy on Ukraine, General Kit Kellogg, has proposed to divide Ukraine with a demilitarized zone. Meanwhile, Trump has made serious concessions in the global trade war. So how did Trump react to the Russian attack on Sumy, and what is going on the global markets right now? US President Donald Trump has called Russian strike on Sumy, which killed 34 people and injured more than 100 people, horrible. He said that this while taking to the reporters aboard Air Force One. On his return to Washington, Trump was asked to comment on the Russian strike, to which he said that it was horrible, quote, "And they told me that they made a mistake, but I think it's terrible. I think the whole war is terrible." When asked what he meant by making a mistake, Trump did not answer and asked this journalist to ask them, meaning Russians. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump's special envoy, Kit Kellogg, has also reacted to Russia's missile strike on civilians in Sumy, quote, "Today's strike by Russian forces on civilian targets in Sumy on Palm Sunday crosses all lines of decency. Dozens of civilians were killed and injured." On the other hand, US President Donald Trump also has signed an executive order extending the state of emergency imposed in April 2021 by President Joe Biden due to Russia's malign activities and related sanctions. Trump has extended sanctions against Russia. At the same time, President Zelensky, after the Russian ballistic attack on Sumy, called on the world, in particular the United States and Europe, to demonstrate a tough reaction. The president said that after a Russian ballistic strike missile on ordinary city street in Sumy, dozens of civilians were killed and injured, quote, "A tough reaction from the world is needed. The US, Europe, everyone in the world who wants an end to this war and murders." He emphasized that Russia wants exactly this kind of terror and is dragging out this war. Without pressure on the aggressor, peace is impossible. Talks have been never stopped by ballistic missile. We need to kind of attitude towards Russia that a terrorist deserves. Thank you to everyone who is with Ukraine, President Zelensky noted. After the Russian missile strike on Sumy on Sunday, French President Emmanuel Macron said that today it is clear that Russia chooses to continue the war contrary to Trump's proposals. Macron wrote in a post dubbed in 3 languages, including Ukrainian. Everyone knows, Macron added, that only Russia wanted this war. Quote, "Today it is clear that only Russia chooses to continue it, contrary to human lives, international law and diplomatic proposals of President Trump." He noted that decisive measures are needed to force Russia to cease fire, and France is working tirelessly with its partners to achieve this goal. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, after Russia's missile strike on Sumy, said that Putin must agree to full and immediate ceasefire without any conditions. The head of the British government noted that he was shocked by Russia's horrific attacks on civilians in Sumy and said that Putin must agree to full and immediate ceasefire without any condition. As we know, Russia has agreed to partial ceasefire in the air and at sea, but violated the deal the day after it was signed. Also, future German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has accused Russia of most serious war crimes after the deadly shelling of the city of Sumy. He said this in an interview with German media. Merz said that Russia attacked the city of Sumy with 2 waves of strikes and stressed that it is the most serious war crime. He also said that Putin perceives readiness for negotiations as a sign of weakness. Meanwhile, US President's Special Representative for Ukraine, Kit Kellogg, has said that Ukraine could be divided almost like Berlin after World War II under a peace deal in the article for The Times. General Kit Kellogg suggested that British and French troops could take control of areas in the west of country as a part of pacification force and the Russian army in the occupied east. Between them would be Ukrainian troops and a demilitarized zone. Kellogg said that Anglo-French forces west of the Dnipro River would not be provocative at all. For Moscow, he said that Ukraine is a large enough country to have several armies seeking to enforce a ceasefire. Quote, "You could make it look almost like what happened to Berlin after the Second World War, when you had a Russian zone, French zone, and a British zone. He later clarified that America would not provide any ground forces. He suggested that a demilitarized zone could be created alongside existing lines of control on the east. The general's plan for how to move from the ceasefire to a lasting peace involves U.S. recognizing Russia's de facto control of the territories it currently occupies. Moreover, Kellogg suggests Ukraine will hold new elections after big ceasefire agreement. According to The Times, there are clear differences between Kellogg's proposal and the division of Berlin in Germany after the World War II. While Germany was enforced to surrender to invading armies, Ukraine would invite allies to provide pacification forces in the west of the country, and there is no suggestion that any other territory would be handed to Russia, according to Kit Kellogg. Kellogg also acknowledged that Putin, who has been also frustrated by Trump, also may not accept the proposal for this kind of zones of control. To ensure that Anglo-French and also Ukrainian forces, supported by troops from other countries of the coalition of the willing, do not shell the Russians, Kellogg said a buffer zone would need to be created between the Ukrainian and Russian lines. As we know, the UK and France are planning to present a plan for a post-war security guarantees forces in Ukraine to US President Trump to persuade him to join in coalition on security guarantees for Ukraine. At the same time, President Zelensky has called on his American counterpart Donald Trump to visit Ukraine to better understand the devastation caused by the Russian invasion. He said this in an interview with CBS News. Quote, please, before any decision, any forms of negotiations, come and look to the Ukrainians, civilians, soldiers, hospitals, churches, children who have been destroyed or killed. Moreover, President Zelensky has expressed doubts about U.S. support for Ukraine. However, President Trump criticized this CBS News program, saying that the channel has gotten out of control and must pay a big price for persecuting him after the channel aired the stories about Ukraine and Greenland. On his social media account, after this interview on 60 Minutes program, he said that the name Trump was managed in a defamatory manner, but according to him, this weekend's broadcast surpassed them all. He called on Federal Communication Commission Chairman Bradman Carr to impose maximum fines and penalties for their illegal and unlawful behavior. In the meantime, the Trump administration has removed smartphones and computers from the list of goods that will be subject to new import tariffs. This also applies to products made in China, for which a higher tariff of 125% has been set. The U.S. Customs and Border Security published a notice of a change in customs policy. It is said that computers, smartphones, and several other categories of electronic devices and their components would be exempted from the global tariffs. American technology companies fear that the import duties imposed by Trump will lead to a sharp increase in prices for digital services, also as their significant part is being manufactured in China. In addition to smartphones and computers, semiconductors, solar panels, memory cards, and flat displays will also be exempted from tariffs, and this development seems to be a big U-turn in Trump's policy on this big tariff war. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and glory to Ukraine.